In this video, I'm going to explain about the administrative distance. The objective is to study the concept of trustworthiness of the route. The second objective is to understand how administrative distance, which is AD, defines the preference of a routing source. And the last objective is to explain how routing source is prioritized in order of most to least preferable using an administrative distance value if a router has multiple routing protocols and static routes configured. If a router has a multiple routing protocols and static routes configured, it is possible that the routing table might have more than one route source for the same destination network. Each routing protocol might prefer a different path to reach the same destination. How does the router know which path to choose? So the Cisco IOS uses what is known as the administrative distance, which is denoted as AD, to determine which route to install in the routing table. The AD represents the trustworthiness of the route. The lower the AD, the more trustworthy it is. Now, assuming that in this table here, it represents a different routing source. Connected route is configured by default with the 0 AD. Static route source is configured with the 1 AD. EIGRP summary route will be 5 by default. External BGP will be 20 by default. Internal EIGRP will be 90 by default, and so on. So you need to memorize what is the default value of all these routing protocol being configured. Now, if I have two routing protocol configured in a router, for example, internal EIGRP, which is configured by default, is 90 AD, and routing information protocol, which is RIP, using the value of 120. So when you have these two values, which is a two routing protocol configured in a router, the router will going to choose which path to reach to the destination. So the answers will be, the router will going to choose the lowest administrative distance value, which is in this case, I have internal EIGRP 90 to be stored and to choose that path to reach to the destination. Okay, let's look at the first questions. The output of the show IP route command contains the following entry. Now, the first is S is denoted as a static route to reach to the destination of 10.2.00, and the first value here is represent the administrative distance. And the second value here is represent the metric to reach to this destination of 10.2.0.0 via the next hop IP addresses, which is 172.16.2.2. So the question is, what value is indicated by 1 in this 1/0? As I mentioned here, this 1 is represent administrative distance, which is AD. And the 0 here is represent a metric. Okay, let's look at the second questions. If a router has a multiple routing protocols configured and static routes, it is possible that the routing table might have more than one route source for the same destination network. Each routing protocol might prefer a different path to reach the same destination. How does the router know which path to choose? So I believe you have the answers. The router will determine which route to install in the routing table based on the value of the administrative distance. The AD represents the trustworthiness of the route. The lower the AD, the more trustworthy it is. Now, let's move on to question 3. When a router learns that multiple paths are available to a destination network from the same routing protocol, which factor is considered by the router to choose the best path to forward a packet? So in this case here, we have two paths, okay? Both are using the RIP, which is the routing information protocol, and this also routing information protocol denoted as R. And both paths also reach to the destination network of 192.168.30.0. Okay. Router we're going to configure, SAM is actually configured as 120 administrative distance. Now in this case, router we're going to choose which path to reach to the destination, because both RIP protocol is the same, network destination address will be the same, administrative distance also the same. Okay, so I believe that you have learned from your previous slides. Okay, the router we're going to choose the lowest metric configured, right? Okay, in this case, these five metric compare with the 3, so 3 will be the lowest. So this path here, 192.168.30.0, overall of this path, we're going to choose, and this is the best path to forward the traffic to the destination. Okay, so the answers will be the router will going to choose the lowest metric if all the router here, the routing information is the same, your multiple networks here is the same, and the administrative distance configure also the same. So the router will going to choose the second consideration, which is look at the lowest metric. Okay, let's move on to the question number 4. When the router learns that multiple paths are available to a destination network from the different routing protocol, which factor is considered by the router to choose the best path to forward a packet? Now this time is different because you have two different protocol being configured. R here is using routing information protocol denoted as R. D here is using dynamic routing protocol, which is using the EIGRP. Now how I know that it's using the internal EIGRP? Based on the table given just now with the administrative default value of 90. Okay, now for the first thing, the router we're going to consider, okay, you will have to route to the destination network, SAM destination network, okay? So the router we're going to choose the lowest administrative distance. So 120 compared with 90, of course, this is not going to be the consideration, okay? So the router we're going to consider these two. And because both are the same of the administrative distance, so this time the router we're going to choose the lowest metric, remember? Okay, so the lowest metric is 2782.114. Okay, compare with the previous one, 2945137. So conclusion here, the router we're going to choose the routing protocol with the lowest administrative distance. After that, they will choose the best path, which is the lowest metric, okay, to route and forward a packet. Okay, now let's look at the last questions, which is the question 5. Best path to the network is the path with the highest value of metric. Do you agree with these statements? I believe that you have the answers right. Okay, so we have been talking all this all over again. So the answers will be no. Best path to the network is the path with the lowest value of metric. Okay, so two paths to the same destination. Which path the router we're going to choose? Both are the same protocol, both route to the same destination network, and both also will have the same administrative distance. So this round, the router we're going to choose the lowest metric. So 5 compared with 3. Which one is the lowest? Of course, this path will be the lowest. So the router we're going to choose this path to route to the destination. Okay, we have done the administrative distance, so let's try to recall what we have learned for this topic. Now we have learned a different routing protocol here being configured that will have a different administrative distance value. So please bear in mind, you have to memorize it. What is the administrative distance value? For examples like connected networks, which is the connected routing protocol, will have the 0 value of 80. Static will be 180. EIGRP summary route will be 5, and so on. Okay, so this one you have to memorize it and remember. Okay. Now, administrative distance is the number used to rate the trustworthiness of the routing information received from a neighbor router. And the second thing, don't forget, if a router has multiple routing protocols and static routes configured, the router will going to choose the lowest administrative distance to be installed in the routing table. Now, in these examples, let's quickly do a summary of this. Okay, connected with the static. Connected is 0 administrative distance and static is 1. So which one we're going to choose? Okay, I believe you have the answers right. So the answers will be connected networks because the connected routes here is administrative distance is the lowest, which is 0. If I use the second one, like for example, I configure in the router using the internal EIGRP and the routing information protocol. Okay, so router, we're going to choose which path to route to the destination. Okay, I believe you have the answers right. So the answers will be the lowest administrative distance, which is 90. Compared with the 120, 90 is the lowest. So don't forget, when the router have the multiple routing protocols and the static routes is configured, okay, the router we're going to choose the lowest administrative distance to be installed in the routing table and to forward to the destination. Okay, the last point you have to know is if both are the same routing protocol with the same administrative distance, a router we're going to choose the path with the lowest metric. So the lowest metric we'll consider. However, if let's say they have a different administrative distance configured, it's not the same, right? So they were not going to the based on their metric. Okay, they were just based on the lowest administrative distance. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.